In 1988, audiences walked into theaters expecting a courtroom drama, and instead found themselves sitting through one of the most harrowing, unforgettable sequences in modern movie history. The film was The Accused, and the star was Jodie Foster, an actress who would give the performance of her life, one so raw and real that she not only won an Oscar, but also admitted years later that she had no memory of filming its most infamous scene. That's right. It was so disturbing. She says her mind literally blacked it out. But how did we get there? And how did a young actress once known as the brainy child star of Taxi Driver end up fighting tooth and nail to prove she was still worth hiring in Hollywood? Let's dig into the story behind The Accused, a film that nearly didn't happen, and a performance that almost never made it to the screen. The movie was directed by Jonathan Kaplan and written by Tom Topor. On the surface, it's a straightforward legal drama. A young woman, Sarah Tobias, played by Jodie Foster, is brutally assaulted by three men in a bar while other patrons watch and cheer. District Attorney Catherine Murphy, played by Kelly McGillis, takes the case. But after agreeing to a plea deal, Sarah feels betrayed. She insists the men who stood by and encouraged the attack should also be held accountable, forcing Catherine to confront her own compromises and fight alongside Sarah for justice. Simple enough, right? Except The Accused was anything but simple. It was gritty, unflinching, and based on a real 1983 case in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where a young woman named Cheryl Araujo was assaulted on a pool table while men clapped and cheered. The case became a media circus, the trials were ugly, and Cheryl's reputation was dragged through the mud. Tragically, she died in a car crash before she ever saw this film, inspired by her ordeal. Now, here's where things get interesting. Paramount didn't want Jodie Foster at all. At the time, Foster was struggling. She'd taken time off from Hollywood to attend Yale, but her life had been overshadowed by John Hinckley Jr.'s assassination attempt on President Reagan, carried out to impress her after he became obsessed with her role in Taxi Driver. The media frenzy left her shaken, and when she returned to acting, her projects mostly flopped. By the mid-1980s, she was seriously considering retiring from movies altogether. So when she heard about The Accused, Foster begged for the chance to audition. Paramount flat out refused. To them, she was still that teenage tomboy, not a serious adult actress who could carry a dark, demanding role. The studio wanted someone with more star power. It was only after Kelly McGillis signed on, fresh off Top Gun, that executives reluctantly agreed to even let Foster read. And here's a twist. Kelly McGillis herself had been the victim of a terrifying assault years earlier. In 1982, two men broke into her New York apartment and attacked her at knife point. The trauma of that experience made her turn down the role of Sarah, but when she read the script, she insisted on playing Catherine, the lawyer. To prepare, she shadowed the real DA who had prosecuted her own attackers. Talk about art imitating life. Meanwhile, the film's most infamous scene loomed like a thundercloud, the assault itself. It was controversial from the start. Many actresses turned down the role of Sarah because they refused to film it. Even critics later accused the movie of going too far, of being exploitative. But director Jonathan Kaplan and writer Tom Topor insisted the sequence had to be shown in full, not implied, not glossed over, to make the audience truly understand Sarah's trauma. And here's the thing, it wasn't just difficult for Jodie Foster. The male actors who played her attackers broke down constantly. Some cried between takes, one even vomited during filming. Foster, who had been meticulously rehearsed with them so there would be no surprises, ended up comforting her co-stars just to get them through the day. Still, the toll on her was enormous. The sequence took 5 days to shoot. Foster later admitted she doesn't remember filming it at all, that she must have blacked out the memory to protect herself. Think about that. She gave one of the most searing performances in cinema history and can't even recall doing it. If you are enjoying this video so far, please subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories behind Hollywood's most shocking films. Hit that like button And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Of course, controversy didn't end there. Originally, the script had the assault take place on a pool table mirroring the real case, but the studio's lawyers panicked, afraid the film would be too obviously tied to Cheryl Araujo's story and invite lawsuits. So the pool table became a pinball machine. Even the script's focus was rewritten. Early drafts made the DA Catherine Murphy the main character, but screenwriter Tom Topor pushed to give Sarah's perspective equal weight. Without that, Foster wouldn't have had the material to deliver the performance that won her an Oscar. And speaking of Oscars, yes, Foster won Best Actress, beating out legends like Sigourney Weaver, Gorillas in the Mist, and Glenn Close, Dangerous Liaisons. Not bad for someone Paramount didn't even want in the movie. Kelly McGillis didn't walk away with a statue, but her performance was praised for its cool, detached strength. She played Catherine as a woman forced to confront her own blind spots, and the film suggested she drew from her own trauma to ground the role. But back to Jodie Foster. As groundbreaking as her performance was, the shoot nearly broke her. Foster's torment in The Accused was rehearsed to the millimeter, staged like choreography. Yet even with all that preparation, she said she went home every night shaking. The strangest part? She was the one holding everyone else together. Crew members were disturbed, male actors were guilty and miserable, and Kaplan himself worried constantly about whether he'd gone too far. Foster would reassure them all, then collapse once she got home. Her gamble paid off. Without The Accused, Foster may have retired in obscurity. Instead, it reestablished her as one of the greatest actresses of her generation. Just 3 years later, she won her second Oscar for The Silence of the Lambs. When the film was released, critics were divided. Gene Siskel admitted he felt dirty watching the assault scene, but acknowledged that was the point. Some newspapers even refused to print ads for the film because of its subject matter, and yet audiences came. And The Accused grossed nearly $37 million on a modest budget, proving serious, uncomfortable dramas could still be box office hits. For Foster, it was vindication. For McGillis, it was catharsis. And for audiences, it was unforgettable. So what's the legacy of The Accused? It's not an easy watch, and it never will be. But that was the goal. The movie dared to ask whether bystanders are just as guilty as perpetrators, and it refused to flinch from the answer. And Jodie Foster, she not only survived the film, she triumphed, even if, to this day, she can't remember filming its most disturbing scene. Now it's time to hear from you. What's the most unforgettable courtroom drama you've ever seen? Was it The Accused, or do you have another in mind? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into Hollywood secrets.